Good morning, and welcome back to Who Am I? Who am I? The show that asks the question that each and every one of us should be asking ourselves multiple times every day. And there's a reason why we should be asking this. It has to do with our configuration, it has to do with who we are and how this works. So, what am I actually asking when I say, Who am I? Who am I? Who am I as an individual? Who am I as a species? Who am I? Uh, who am I in the field? What is this medium that I'm swimming in? How does my biotechnology even operate? What's the object of the exercise? And what are the rules? What are the laws of the universe? What are the immutable laws that never change? And who am I in all of this soupy question? Now, I'm really not just asking it from a philosophical point of view. I'm actually very, very specifically asking it from a very physical point of view. Who am I physically? How does my physical mechanism even work? How does my physical mechanism dovetail with the rest of the universe? What's the point of everything? We're going to ask some other questions. Where did we come from? We're going to talk about where we might be in the narrative. What's our story? Where are we in the story? What's coming up in the story? You know? How do we tell this story so that it works out really cool for humanity? Because I'm telling you, we've got some bumpy places going on right now, and I think we could use some help. And so, to that service, I offer my insight, I offer my time, I offer my thought. I'm going to be talking about this every day. Every day that I'm home, that is not actually impossible for me to do so for the rest of my life. I'm doing this. I see what it's doing for me. I think it would do that for the rest of us too. And what's the point of all this? So I have a thesis. My thesis is that every form of human suffering is coming from our misunderstandings of reality. I just think that's true. The Buddhists would agree with me. Now, I didn't actually come to this conclusion through Buddhist philosophy, but after having come to the conclusion, I ran across it and went, oh, isn't that interesting that they see it this way, and look at how that relates to how I see it. So I'm going to bring up my first change of slide, which is pretty quick. I'm only 3 minutes in. I may come back to this scenery. I always like to start with scenery because I never really know where I'm going to enter my narrative. Now, the idea of the show is I have several very large concepts that on their own would take a while to explain if that's what I was doing, if that's what I was focusing on. And actually, the really, really big ideas weren't mine to begin with. I didn't come up with this stuff. What is unique to me is simply how I put it together. But, and then what kinds of original ideas spring from that original way of putting it together. I have a number of ideas that I have collected from other wisdom teachers or people that had really good things to say, whether they were whoever. I have certain ideas of theirs that I put together in a particular way, and I have a collection of ideas of my own, little pet ideas, little concepts, things like addition consciousness, Shiva energy, divine autonomy. They'll come up over time. The HBV, that's the human being vehicle, the micro and the macro. We're going to talk all about this. We're going to discuss who we really are. So if you're sitting in the middle of an emotional situation that you're fighting with your beloved, you're confused about what you want to do with your life, how you want to move forward. Do you want to live here? Do you want to live there? Do you want this person with you, or do you want him out of there? Do you are you doing good by your kid, or are you feeling bad about it, or you're just in a mix. You got a problem. What do you do? How do you parlay this deep recognition of your physical and spiritual configuration so that you understand your emotions? I think human beings need to understand what their emotions are and quit taking them, that they can run with their negative emotions in a very, very dark way. And it causes massive suffering and destruction upon the planet. Now, until we know who we are, the destruction is actually quite useful. It's quite helpful. It's beneficial. It tears down the things that are not sustainable. You got to have some mechanism. You have to hire a wrecker if you're going to keep building shit that needs to come down, because it's not in alignment with who you are and the reality of the universe around you. And so it's not going to sustain. It's not satisfying all of the desires in the field. It's causing turmoil and upset in the places where people are falling through the cracks and they're not getting what they need. They're becoming desperate and frightened and confused, and they fall into the negative emotions, and then they start grasping and clinging from that position, and it starts tearing the shit down around them. There's reasons for this. It's because of what we keep creating. We keep creating things that are not sustainable. They aren't sustainable because they are not in alignment with the rest of the field around us, because we haven't been understanding who we are. Now, I promised I was going to change this slide, and then I didn't, and that was like 4 minutes ago. This was what I was going to change it to. This is the 5 kleshas of Buddhist philosophy. And they are considered to be the root causes of all suffering. That all suffering can be traced back to somewhere where someone is doing something here. And basically, this amounts to not knowing who you are, not knowing what reality is, not knowing the laws of the universe, and not understanding how to line yourself up with the flow around you, so that you can creatively, co-creatively, cooperatively interact with the field around you in a mutually satisfying, constructive, and abundance creating feedback system is what you're going to be doing. There is no reason why human beings on planet Earth are creating scarcity. We should be creating abundance. We should be co-creating abundance with this magnificent field of creation that we are embedded in. So part of this question, who am I, is going to be a discussion about the field that we are in. Because you got to really understand physically, in reality, what is going on around you. You really are embedded in a greater field. You are a field phenomenon. The energies that you produce and create and flow and channel and focus on and all that matter to the rest of the world, to the rest of the field around you. We are all responsible for our little piece of the grid to shine light on wherever it is that we are. And the light of loving kindness. And you don't even necessarily have to, if it is not your thing, to go out and physically mix it up with lots of other people because you find them confusing, you find their ideas take you and your brain into places that right now, I believe that we live in a time of relative chaos. Now, there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of order that has been accumulating over the last few hundred years as humanity has been organizing itself. And then through technology, we start to organize ourselves. There's a lot of organization, but we live in a time where there are points of chaos that are of significant trouble to us and significant disturbance to me personally. I have a problem observing any kind of suffering and not feeling some kind of suffering too. It makes me feel bad. I unplug from source and then I'm useless. And this has been a problem of mine for my entire life. And so for the longest time, I systematically unplugged my feelings. I just became way, way, way detached with the world. It was all okay, but it was way over there. And I interacted with it, but I really had unplugged a whole lot of my feelings because I just didn't know what to do with them. Whenever I would turn and look at how human beings treat the rest of the animal kingdom, for instance, either the ones that we eat or the ones that we, really are forced to share our lives with, but that we push out of every crack that we seem to, when I would observe that, I would just get so depressed. I had the worst day of my life when I realized what they did to dogs in Korea. And how I spent hours crying over drowning polar bears. And it was just a couple of weeks ago, I about lost it from a recognition of what we're doing to elephants and their culture. We didn't even recognize for the longest time that elephants had culture. But when you make orphans young elephants, and then they are not taught how to be in this world, they become destructive. And they're sad. It's sad. Anyway, so I can't think of that for very long. The fact is we do have big problems on planet Earth, and the problems that we face are things like global warming, which I believe is both a cyclical, natural, celestial event that's happening to planet Earth that would have happened even if human beings hadn't done anything that we're doing. But our activity is greatly exacerbating our ability to be flexible and accommodate what would have already been a challenging event. We make it worse. We're out of alignment. We don't have the proper energy source. We don't know who we are. We don't understand our emotional configuration. We do not understand our physical, mathematical, our spiritual. We don't understand who we are. And so we're going to talk about it. The 5 kleshas here: not knowing what's real, grasping and clinging to the unreal. Only the love is real, people. So you start grasping and clinging to the other stuff. First of all, it's not real. Second of all, in your focus on it, you start creating more of the bad stuff. Being afraid of the unreal and recoiling from it. Only the love's real. You don't have to recoil from that. Identifying with an imaginary self. This one I see more as overly identifying with your physical self and not being aware, not accounting for this magnificent, permanent, eternal, vibrational, connected to all things source aspect of yourself. If you don't know about that part of yourself, then all you know about is your physical self, and it's made of meat. And do you know what happens to meat? It can become damaged easily. It bruises, it cuts, it spoils, it rots. It dies. There's all kinds of... It can be eaten. It's edible. Oh my gosh. We are made of meat, people. If that's the only person, if that's the only aspect of you that you know, then no wonder you're terrified. And if you're using your physical mind to try to scope out all of the threats in this world, and then to try to decide what reality is, and then to try to plot your course, and then to try to account for what everybody else is doing, and then to try to decide what the whole thing means, all without knowing what your equipment is, what the laws of the universe are, what this divine matrix is. The divine matrix aspect and the inner being are the two points of the equation that change the game, change the whole game. The law of attraction and the whole that part says, first of all, that this is supposed to be fun, people. This is supposed to be fun. The who you are is a joyful, joyous, optimistic, interested, eager, action-oriented, even, being. Who you really are is that, right? Who are you being? How are you thinking? What are you doing with your physical mind? Because I'll tell you what, this is your configuration. This is my inadequate picture. Please, somebody who loves me or somebody who loves this work, who is a technical person who wants to work with me someday, somebody needs to find me. But until then, I know that the law of attraction will bring the right person to my door. I don't have to go out and find them. I do not have to take my physical mind and my physical action and go out and try to find the person that needs to help me with this. Law of attraction is going to bring us together. They're going to find this blog and they're going to listen to my words and they're going to go, oh my God, I'm the person for her. But until then, this is my slide, and what it is representing to me is source mind on the left and your physical, specific, individuated micro mind right there on the right. That's you. That's your conscious mind. That's what you think of as your conscious mind. The other part of it, and that's your source mind. You may or may not be conscious of this mind. You kind of flash in and out of little bits of it and pieces of it. Frankly, it is universal consciousness. There are you off and on are conscious of your larger self, and whenever you find yourself back in the room, I used to call it the room. That was when I was struggling to describe this thing that I was seeing in my mind. This place that I kept coming back to, and it seemed like everybody cool who was being cool at any given time or had ever been cool through history, so the ones that were dead, they're there too, but all the cool people were there in that room. When you come back to that room, what you say to yourself is, oh, I know this place. Oh, this is who I really am. I get it. I know it. You only get to this room when you feel good, when you feel safe, when you feel happy, when you feel a general okayness with the world. Satisfaction is, I believe, the base level, that the base level ticket into this room. Let's see. What do I have to say about this? You are two minds. Your source mind, both of them are spinning. Both of them are spinning discs of attraction or vortices of attraction. They are both... See, how do I want to do this? I have loved ones that I want to direct to this show, that I want to be able to encapsulate this recognition of this huge picture of who we are and where we stand in this moment in time. and where the hands and the minds and the hearts, where and how they are needed. We need our alignment, people. That's the only thing we're missing. We have everything else and we can put it all together in a beautiful way right now if we would just get our heads out of our asses and know who we are. So who are we? You are two aspects. First of all, you are a vibrational being in a vibrational universe. You've got to know this in order to really understand how the world is becoming what it is becoming, how the manifested world of the rolling manifestation, however you want to call it, the changing world of flux, how it is rolling out, how it is becoming what is becoming, and what role you can play in this for yourself, because you got to help yourself, and B, how this aligned helping of yourself is going to help the human project in how we are trying to come together, how we are trying to organize ourselves into a better, more peaceful, more efficient, more joyful, abundant, creative, happy world. That's what we're trying to do. And the universe is trying to help us do this, and we need to understand who we are, or we are just getting in the way. If you want to engage your mind in this, your physical mind, this is really important. If you want to engage your physical mind on the tasks at hand, you've got to put your physical mind in alignment with the physical mind of the physical universe, which is your source mind, which is your vibrational mind, which is your larger self, your source self, that is also you. You have an aspect of yourself that is pure source. It is connected to all other things. It is spinning out of the original spin of everything. And it is part of the organizational structure that is trying to organize us with one another. And how is it doing it? Well, first of all, if you wanted to put an emotion on what this singularity of singularities, the singularity of all singularities, the connection to the Almighty, the place where we all connect, that point that we all share. If you want to put an emotion on it, it would be love. It is connected to everything you love. Everything you love, everything you have ever wanted, everything you have ever yearned for, all things that you hold valuable and dear and precious. It is love. It is this connected point, this point where all things connect. That's your source mind. It knows all things. The reason it knows all things, so this is how it is structured. It is made of plonks. What is a plonk? A plonk is, for this density, the shortest frequency wavelength that you could imagine. Now, not only is the world made of plonks, it's like solid packed plonks. And the only difference between the plonks that are just there in a sea of, they call it the Dirac Sea. It's this, and science knows about this, but they have largely discounted it because it's everywhere. They can't figure out the organization of it. And so they figure it all cancels out, to this random function, doesn't really mean anything, although it really does mean stuff. It is source energy. It is all the plonks. It's all plonks touching each other. All plonks everywhere in all of the universes are connected They're all touching each other. And as they touch each other, they are reverberating. They are exchanging their information with one another vibrationally across all the cosmos, every Planck instant. I'm going to change my slide again. We're going to go to this one, which is showing you the... Now, I know that we're talking about human emotion, and we're talking about getting along with your spouse and picking your path to the future. We're talking about what am I going to do with myself, and how do I understand who I am and how I belong in this big human picture. That is what we're talking about. But for just a second, we're going to talk about Plancks because it matters. It literally matters. This has to do with the emergence of matter. This has to do with the origin of mass and the nature of gravity. It has to do with how Source is organized, and you are Source. And so the organization of these Plancks and how they are exchanging their information across all scales of the multiverse at all times through this cosmic jiggle that they are exchanging with one another gives you and your physical mind the confidence to believe me when I tell you that you have an aspect of yourself that knows everything, because all of the information is everywhere. It's everywhere. All of the information of all of the multiverse is everywhere. It's actually embedded in every Planck. Certainly it's embedded in every proton, but it's embedded in every Planck. And the way it does it is through this cosmic jiggle. So the universe is holographic, and because it's holographic, you can believe that your inner being could be in touch with all of the rest of the universe. It knows everything. Your inner being just knows how your blood is flowing, how the wind is blowing, what is coming down the street at you, what the major projects of humanity that are on the ground at this moment, and how they are in progress, and who's involved with them. And it also knows a jillion different ways that you could extract satisfaction and fun and abundance and clarity and interaction and exchange and all kind with the field around you, with the living field around you, and with the inanimate. The geology of the planet is absolutely, and the astronomy of the universe it's all magnificent, and it all fits together, and it's all you, and it's all wonderful. And by the way, did I mention that there is only one of us here? There is only one of us here. And if this becomes a process for you where you just start practicing identifying that way, you'll be amazed at what starts happening in your mind. You know what? I never made this, but I did recognize. Wow. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm talking to myself. I'm looking at my studio screens, and I was just thinking something technical, and I said it out loud. I shouldn't do that. I'm on the air. Ooh. All right, so who are we? Anyway, who are we? How does this work? Here, let's go back to the Planck units. Remember what a Planck is, and I'm going to tell you how a hologram is made. And then we're going to go back, and we're going to talk about these two spinning disks of attraction that you are. And I want you to know, down to the bottom of your feet, that you are more the vibrational eternal source aspect of yourself than you even are the physical aspect of yourself. And you really are totally both of these selves are you, and the two of them together combine to make a third you that is divine, that is divinely autonomous. And if you would understand how to operate your equipment, you could fly through this universe in joy and loving connection with all of the rest of the field around you. You don't have to worry about spotting the threats in your field. Start worrying about spotting the love in the field. And you know what? You don't have enough mind space in your small conscious mind to keep all of it active at once. You can't be afraid and loving at the same time, and at some point you got to choose. You may be loving something, and in that love for something you are fearful for it, and then you act and you believe you're acting out of love, but you are still acting out of fear, and it's going to be a problem for you. So we need to talk about who we are and understand there's only two directions, and it's like a toggle switch. You're either going forward in the direction that you want to go, or you're going backwards in the opposite direction of where you want to go. You're either going where you want to go or the opposite. There's only those two directions. Don't worry about the nuances of, at least not for now. When you get really good at the basics, you can start putting on the gas. Understand, we're going to talk about what your brakes and your gas are. What is the brakes and the gas of this cosmic flying machine that you are managing, that you are captaining? You are the captain of your ship and the master of your soul. You absolutely are. But now let's go back to what a Planck is. So Planck, you take a photon, a packet of light, basically going at the speed of light. So it's a very, very small thing. It's not even the size of a proton. It's like an electron. It's the size of practically nothing. It's going at the speed of light, and it crosses. You make it go the distance of its own diameter. So that's not very far. Going at the speed of light, crossing your own diameter, there's like hardly nothing. It's nothing. The time that it takes to do that, hardly any time at all. Because do you know how many miles the speed of light, if you're going at the speed of light, how long you can go in like a half a second? Thousands of miles. So if you're going at the speed of light, you're going really, really fast. And you're not going very far, just across your own diameter. And then energy and mass have an equation, E equals mc squared and all that. And so there's a mass associated with that tiny little blip of energy. That's the Planck. That's what everything is made of. It's these Planck oscillators that is the entire field. It's the ether. It's the plasma. It's the fluid, superfluid that the universe is made of, these Plancks. And when they are not organized, they're sitting at the 0 point energy field. You might have heard about that. You also have heard about quantum stuff, quantum physics and quantum this. What a quanta is a Planck. It's a little Planck oscillator, a little quantum, a little vacuum fluctuation that's popping in and out of existence at all times. Even the stuff that looks like it's solid is not really nearly as solid as it looks. It also popping in and out across the event horizon of the 0 point energy field, you would say. It is popping in and out. It's popping all the way out, and then it's popping all the way back in. And what is making it pop all the way back in the way that it is? Well, it's focus and attention and desire and all the beings everywhere, everyone wanting what it's love. It's focus. So the focus, a continued focus, causes a continuum. So things can pop out and then pop back in relatively the same. So it's not so vertigo making as, every single Planck second. It's absolutely a whole new universe. Now, it is a whole new universe, but it's mostly the same universe. But it can be as new as you can imagine. You can imagine this into anything, and especially as a human being, we are so cool. The way that our equipment operates with the universe that we live in, with this divine matrix that we are interacting with, the way that human structure, human physiology interacts with this field is miraculous and amazing and so cool. And if we could more generally understand how it works and start consciously working it with one another, we could build a world so fantastic. And all of our problems that we face, of air quoting problems that we face on planet Earth, would melt away. We would have no problems. We would only have magnificent wonderful projects, and us making the world better and safer and more abundant, and getting to know the magnificent intelligences that surround us in behind the eyes of all the non-human creatures, as well as all of the gifts and the magical, have you ever seen the movie Encanto? you know Humanity is like the Madrigal family. you know uh, we're just so amazing, and every one of us has a gift to share. It's like Xanth. You ever read the Piers Anthony Xanth series? The magical land of Xanth, and every person in the land of Xanth has a magical power. Some of them magician level, and others, they can make spots appear on the wall by just thinking, and then the spots appear. Or they might be magician level. They can make plants grow. I mean, like grow right now. It's cool. There's a demon Xanth that is chained under the land of Xanth, which, by the way, coincidentally looks just like Florida. But the demon is what gives the land its magic. At one point, the demon breaks free, and there's stuff that happens with that. I have my own analogy with the demon Xanth. I believe that us not knowing who we are is unleashing demons across the land. And then our fellow human beings, because we are a field phenomenon, there is only one of us here, they walk along and pick up that Shiva energy, and then they wield it. They swing it around. They hurt each other with it. They tear things down with it. They become wreckers. Because when parts of us build things that are not sustainable and not sustaining and not nurturing and not fulfilling, all of the things not in alignment with who we really are and what the field really needs. The field, which is all of us, by the way, when we create stuff like that, it simultaneously creates. We do it in our lack of alignment with ourselves. And that very lack of alignment with ourselves is a kind of a crossing of our energy stream, which creates a negative energy in the field. I call it Shiva energy. I call it demonic energy. Now, Source is always giving you your share of. There is an energy stream that is coming to you. Paul Levy calls this, and a lot of people call it this, but I like the specific way he labels this. I love it. It is daimonic energy. You get your quota of daimonic energy, and you got to do something with it, or it will turn to demonic energy. It's the old idle hands are the devil's workshop kind of thing. So you kind of need to keep busy, but that's not really my point. My point is, when we, in our ignorance of who we are, do not act out of alignment, it does create this demonic. It unleashes demons. Think about it this way. Let's bring it down to the very, very personal. When you do not understand what your own negative emotion is, and you decide to fix on it, focus on it, identify with it, and act on it, what you have basically done is let a demon drive your car. And it is collectively adding to a chaotic storm of demonic energy sweeping around you. Now, the reason that that happens is because there are things that need to be destroyed. There are things that need to come down because they are so out of alignment. And the suffering that these systems are causing in the human beings around us as they flounder with their little lives. They can't... Everyone is forced to capitalize in order to... Now, that's both a good and a bad thing. I mean, it's a terrible thing when you don't understand how this works. It's absolutely monstrous. It gets a little bit better when you understand how it works, because you understand, first of all, how you can monetize and get your share of the stream, but then you also understand how you can help radiate a more wholesome organization outward into the field, and collectively we can try to make our future a little bit less suffering and chaotic as it is at this moment. We are still dealing with things like sixth mass extinction, global warming. I stopped at that one. I never got any farther than that. Growing deserts. Pesky war will not go away. And I'll tell you what, just wait and see what happens when this election occurs, because it doesn't, first of all, it doesn't matter which one of them wins. Trump is going to show up. So if Biden wins, we're going to have a very interesting time on January the 20th at the swearing in, because Trump is showing up with all of his, thugs ready to, coup the place. And even if we get past that, the fact of the matter is the Biden administration is not the savior of the world. That is for dang sure. It is more status quo. It is more the current artificial paradigm being propped up by the powers that are in control of the momentum of the structure going right now. I could give you all kinds of fodder to chase conspiracy theories, because there's conspiracies everywhere. And there is evil, there is wickedness, there are people who are getting away with murder. Oh my gosh. What are we going to do about it? Well, I'll tell you what we can't do. We can't spend all of our time and all of our heart and all of our mind chasing the bad guys. At some point, you have to open up some space to chase the light, people. We have to understand that actually our ability to solve our problems is not going to come from our ability to chase down the culprits of the problems, or the particular perpetrators who have either taken advantage of their ability to amass tremendous amounts of abundance, or taken advantage of you. I got too far out on that, and I'm going to get lost if I don't come back right away. You can't bring to justice the wicked. That's not what's going to bring about the world that we want. You can't push resistance. You've heard the statement, resistance is futile, and you think of it as a defeatist. It's the Daleks or somebody. That's Doctor Who, in case you aren't a Doctor Who watcher. The Daleks, resistance is futile. Whatever they say. And you think, I'm going to resist you. You're wrong. Resistance is not futile. But in a way, resistance is futile. You don't beat them by resisting them. When you resist them, you actually give them power. It has to do with the way polarity works in the field. It's amazing. Back in 2016, I got very frightened for a minute. And for just a moment, I went physical. But I went physical from a negative position. I was frightened and I acted. I got to do something about this because, we're going to get taken over. I am a student of history, and one of the things World War II, and especially Nazis, the Nazi phenomenon, that whole thing, the Holocaust, the aberrant psychology going on there. I mean, how that could possibly have happened. It absolutely horrified and bewitched me in my need to understand that. I read lots and lots and lots of everything from historical fiction, historical nonfiction, textbooks, watched shows on PBS, and now there's all kinds of stuff, Foyle's War, and just everything talking about what the heck was that. There actually was a really good show, just came out on Netflix. Man, when you think about what that was with an open mind, just as humanity, that was freaking raw. That whole thing that went down was raw. Anyway, so 2016, we had an election that just pretty much horrified me. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter and quite the progressive liberal Democrat. Blah, 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 blah. I have my doubts about. I actually think that there absolutely is a place. There's a huge place for the beneficent. Us working communally, our big self working together. There is we are one, but we got to be careful about how we're one. And I have come to believe that absolutely we are one, absolutely, but there is one rule of this game, that it has to be this way. The will of the collective group can never force the individual. The individual has to be convinced, has to be kindly treated. If for some reason they are acting out of alignment and self-destructively as well as mutually group destructively, they can be restrained, but it has to be so kind. It has to be so, and with the absolute notion that as soon as the problem's fixed, that they are really, that it's only for their safety and the safety of others. You can't force people. So, like, if you decide that the right idea is that we all need to be vaccinated, and at one point, I would have gone along with that. But we've gotten to the point where we're pushing through stuff, at way too emergency paces, which I think we shouldn't be doing that. We cannot take any shortcuts ever. We just can't. And if that turns into a problem, well, I don't want to devolve into a conversation about vaccinations, that's for sure. The point is, you have to convince me. And if you can't convince me, you cannot force me. If you have the truth on your side, and it absolutely is wholesome and correct and not dangerous, and you cannot say, as the big group, that it is better you have to do it for the whole. You have to sacrifice your individual will for the whole, or sacrifice your individual well-being for the whole. There is never, ever, the individual is equally as important as the whole. However, the individual has to understand that at a deep, deep field-based level, Planck level, we are all one. There is only one of us here. And when you understand that, then the self actually can easily sometimes be convinced to sacrifice himself for the whole. But it is his choice. It is never, ever, ever, ever the state's job to sacrifice the individual for the group. When you start doing that, ooh, that starts getting that slippery slope, freaking dangerous territory, people. But back to my earlier discussion, what I was saying back in 2016, I became quite concerned because I could tell, everybody can tell who's the authoritarian candidate here, you know, but the two candidates that are representing, you know, ultimate freedom and democracy on the one hand. Oh my God, are you kidding? He's senile, he's ancient, he's old as the hills. He has no new ideas. He's a prop for the status quo. He's a fine, but not. That's not okay. That's not okay. And the world that administration is going to take us into, it's more of infrastructure that's going to have to come down, people. And I don't want it to have to come down through bloody revolution, you know. I would like this to be just easy, downstream flow, next step, next step, next step, everything feeling, you know, the well-being just unfolding the way it will or could if we understood how the flow worked, how source energy flows. And I realized that I've left several things laying in the road behind me. One is an explanation of how the universe is holographic. So how do you make a conventional hologram? You take a laser beam, you split it into two beams. You redirect those two beams. One just gets redirected back to a point. The other one scans an object that you want to make a hologram of, you know, a dove or a apple or something. You know, you make it this hologram, you scan the object, and then you take that beam that's scanning that object, that scanned the information of that object, and you redirect it back to the original, the one that you split off of, and they come back together and they interfere with one another. And now, instead of the information of the apple being in particular places on the whatever, now through an interference pattern, it's everywhere. And you can take anywhere on that interference pattern. You can take that image of the apple or whatever, you cut it in half, take that half, blow it back. Anyway, I'm saying the words wrong. The information of the apple of the thing you scanned is everywhere in the hologram now. And what made that happen was the two lasers interfering with each other, the two energy streams, the two beams interfering with each other. They come back and they mix, and through this interference pattern, everything is now represented. Well, that's what the whole frickin' universe is doing through the Planck field. It's all reverberating. It's all interfering. It's all jiggling. It's this cosmic jiggle. That is what 0 point energy is. And at rest, it's almost infinite, this energy field. And that's what everything's coming out of. And that's what you're coming out of. You are an extension of this source energy field. And if you can line your two selves up with this, so anytime you take a physical thought, make sure that it at least resonates with what your inner being knows to be true about the situation. How can you tell if you're doing that? Well, I'll tell you, first off, you feel good. You feel emotionally good. You feel at peace. You feel eager, interested. And as a matter of fact, let's go to the emotional guidance scale. Oh, I can't read this one. I have to go to this one because it's in my studio here. That's small, so it has to be kind of big or I can't read it because my eyes aren't good. These emotions, the way they are listed, go from a highest momentum of positive down through lower momentums of positive until you get to kind of a neutral place, right somewhere betwixt contentment and boredom. There's kind of a place where you're sort of, not quite content, not quite bored. You're just still kind of just there. Then you start falling into negative territory, and from that, as you go down, the negative momentum starts building. And as you continue to think thoughts of a negative state, you will start to spiral into these greater momentums. And what the answer to this problem is, you have to find a way to interrupt the negative momentum the minute you sense that you have done it. Otherwise, law of attraction is going to take what you're doing, your thoughts and your focus, and it's going to hand you another one just like it, and another one just like it, and another one just like it. Every 15 seconds or so, it amps up another degree. And by the 1 minute mark, if you do not do something to interrupt your negative flow, you're going to have a pretty good negative momentum going. You're going to start noticing around you, in the physicality, things that confirm your negative perspective. Things are going to, life is going to start meeting you up with, rendezvousing you up with those who resonate with this same negative thing you got going on. What you're doing in this moment, as you take negative thoughts, is you are crossing your own energy stream. Think of it as, so your source mind has a very, 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 very powerful, forward-moving, interconnected with all of the field around you, momentum of evolution expanding. How it's doing it is, let's see, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to go back to some basics? Let's talk about some basics about the law of attraction. The law of attraction says that which is like unto itself is drawn. And this is the mechanism by which you are creating your own reality, whether you know it or whether you don't know it. If you don't know it, you're doing it by default. If you come to understand how this works, you can start doing it on purpose, and you can start positively affecting your situation more and more in the direction of what you would prefer, rather than just what you happen to be looking at because it's catching your attention, because it's going on right in front of you. That might be the reason why you are creating by default. What's happening has all your attention, and you're emanating a negative signal, you're crossing your own energy stream, you're not getting a clear signal from source about your actions, that's how you're doing it. So, how does this work? You are a vibrational being in a vibrational universe, and the steps of creation go as follows. Steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1 is the contrast of life experience causes you to identify to yourself what you would prefer. If you live a horrific life of war, don't you know that you are identifying how valuable peace is to you? Those who have lived through war, they absolutely understand the value of peace. Well, what happens is you're a vibrational being in this vibrational universe. And think of this source, your source mind, as being your cosmic vibrational. It's an aspect of your cosmic vibrational anatomy. It is you. It is part of you. It is your sliver of the Almighty. It is your sliver of the wholeness, your direct connection to God. It's your mirror that allows you to turn it in such a way so that you can see the entire universe. You have the whole universe right there with you. It's your source mind. It is... So your source mind knows all things. What is your source mind thinking about? This is a good question, because if you could get yourself to start thinking about the things that your source mind is thinking about, then you would be thinking about things together, and you would be co-conspiring with God, for crying out loud, with all that is, for heaven's sakes, with everything that's real and all that you care about. Wouldn't that be amazing? And then what would happen to you in your life? You would end up with all the relationships you crave, with all of the abundance that you desire, with all of the comfort and play, or whatever it is that floats your boat, whether it's invention, oh my gosh, it's so satisfying, or whether it's art creation, or whether it's whatever it is that lights you up inside. That's your inner being saying to you, come this way, come this way, come this way. Because this is what your inner being is. So this is how the steps of creation go. Contrast causes you are a vibrational being. Even in your physical body, you are a vibrational being. And you are emitting a vibrational offering unto this universe, and through that vibrational offering you are connecting to the universe. It is hearing you, and it is feeding you back impulses, thoughts, ideas, to act, to think, to whatever, by virtue of what you are putting out. That's what you're getting back. It's a frequency. The frequency that you are putting out is the frequency you are tuned to. And that's the only one you're going to hear anything coming back from. You're resonating with that frequency. Other people who are resonating with that same frequency are being drawn to you in different ways, as cooperative components to your desires. Anyway, this is how it works. Both of these minds are spinning discs of attraction, pulling into their orbit things around them that resonate with the same frequencies, right? Now, as you bang around in your physical world, contrast, things that you don't like, cause you to this is how Abraham puts it, emit rockets of desire. That desire is an implication. It's, I want, and it's always to the better. It's always to the more. When you're cold, you want to be warm. When you're hungry, you want food. When things are stark and barren, you want abundance and motion. You want, when you are alone, you want others around you to help carry the load. When you everything. When you think about this. So over time, human beings have been making it better. It is so much better than it used to be. Watch some shows on Masterpiece Theater. Go back and watch something like Poldark, for instance. Go watch Poldark. Go watch, there's other stuff that illustrates how harsh it used to be. Go watch 12 Years a Slave. You tell me that we haven't made it better. Now, it's an ongoing process. We can't get it wrong because we ain't finished yet. We continue to make it better and better and better. Back in the olden days, think about what outhouses used to be. Everybody used to go in outhouses. It was the rare, rich individual that had any kind of, they could go inside, and they had servants that would dump the chamber pots or, whatever. I don't know. Maybe in the extremely cold places you still have to use those, but everybody used outhouses. And do you know that that's where people used to get bit by black widow spiders? On the balls or on the ass or whatever. And it was terrible. And do you know what? Most people who have the means to be able to change that, and there are billions of people now who use clean restrooms with water, running water, and comfort and heat. Okay, so that in itself causes more problems. There's problems that cause. Okay, so now this is good, but that's bad, so we got to fix that. But just keep leaning to the what would be better, what would be better, what would be better, what would be better. And if you focus on what you want instead of what you've got that you don't like, because frankly, where you're looking is where you are going. That's how your mechanism operates. Where you are looking is where you are going. Now, it is true that in order to actually fix things, you have to face reality for just a moment. You have to take a hit from that negative emotion. You have to feel I don't like this very much. It could be better. I don't like these black widow spider bites. What could we do? We could maybe put lights in here. We could put running water in here. We could seal the walls up better and the doors up better. And we could maybe bring this room into the house, or I don't know. So step one, life causes desire to spring from you. It's just an energetic thing that happens. You don't have to even have conscious knowledge of this happening, because all of us are doing it. Even the snails and the squirrels and all living beings are doing this. They are living their lives and they are asking for their desire. They are focusing upon what they want. The squirrel is focusing on the acorn that he wants, and he's looking for it. He's seeking it. He's got it in his mind. He knows it's there. He has trust. He has faith. He is just looking for it. And he may not find it. He may not find it, but his desire causes a rocket that source answers. Now, this is how, over time, this is going to work whether it works for you or not. Because you are an older project than you know. And the project that you are continues into tomorrow as well, even if you lay your physical body down. Your project continues. So, the whole idea of conscious creation is that you, in understanding how the physics of this mechanism works, that you can join the party now and you can reap some of the benefit of it now. It isn't just part of what mankind reaps down the road. We've got a little bit of a problem going on right now. We've got a race between, are we going to make it to our sustainable future before we wipe ourselves out? Which one is going to come first? Are we going to go extinct first, or are we going to find our sustainable path? Well, I'm going to tell you how we can find I'm going to tell you the path out of the wilderness. This is the path out of the wilderness. We've got to understand source energy, because it's going to help us understand how to get off of fossil fuels. As a matter of fact, we can immediately begin getting off fossil fuels. Immediately. If we would only understand a couple things. First of all, we don't even really have to understand source energy in order to get off fossil fuels. We need to know that for over 100 years, we have been kept in the dark about over unity devices. This is something to understand about source energy, though. The reason that over unity devices are even possible is because there is no such thing as a closed system. The premise is that you can't have a device that puts out more energy than you put into it to run it. Because in a closed system, you can't create energy out of nothing. Energy is not coming out of nothing. The thing is that there isn't anything that is nothing. There's nowhere that you can look where there's nothing. It's all this incredibly energetic sea of densely packed plonks. It's plonks. It's this field of quantum vacuum fluctuations that what causes them to come into being? Spin causes them to come into being. What causes the spin? Gradient density. Gradient means grades of difference. Gradient density in the field causes the field to fly into spin. And what is matter? Matter is just this Planck field having gone into spin. A proton, which is the little bit of mass at the center of every atom, it's the mass, it's the matter at the center of the atom, is simply a vortex of this Planck field spinning. And it's organization. Source is organizing us through the mechanism of spin. And it's through the original spin that we all come out of. This source of all motion, this that's where we are all connected to one another. That is how we are all one. That is how we are holographic. That is, it is the organizational structure of peace and love and joyful abundance. And did you know that this exercise is supposed to be fun? Did you know that your life is supposed to be fun? Maybe not 100% of the time, but most of the time, you're going to, in the normal course of events, let's say that humans sort this. We figure out, in general, who we are, and we get our systems into alignment. Our systems, what systems am I talking about? Systems like our food production systems, our distribution systems, the supply chain of humanity, that system, our communication systems, our internet systems, our financial systems, our currency flow systems, our healthcare systems, the systems by which we flow abundance to one another and encourage one another to help the common project move forward in its, all of that. It's all systems. It's all overarching systems. If those systems could be in alignment with who we are, then we could, 10 billion of us could live in peaceful harmony on planet Earth. 15 billion. It really doesn't matter. There's no limit to the number of people that the world could support. We just have to be in alignment because we can't organize this through our physical mind's ability to organize. We need source energy to help us organize this. I'm just going to change this for a minute just because I realize that other slide is sitting up there and I'm not really saying anything about it. It's not an interesting slide. It's just showing that we are these two selves. And you really are your source self more than you are your individual self. Now, you are your individual self, and your individual self is wildly important to the equation. It's the one having the physical experience. And everything is about this physical experience. All of Source is about this physical experience. And everything that Source knows is all about the physical. Source knows everything physically that's going on, knows where all the atoms are, knows where all the protons are, knows where, because it's all this structure of fractal integers, of echoing mirrors, of this reverberating holographic thing that's going on. So your inner being knows what's what, but it's not thinking about the matter. It doesn't need to think about the matter. It just knows, it can tell, it can feel, it knows where all the stuff is. So what is it thinking about? It's thinking about what you want. So, like Abraham puts it, every subject is actually two subjects. So when I say that you need to think about what you want, you may be sitting there thinking that you imagine that you're thinking about what you want, but you're not thinking about what you want. You're thinking about the absence of what you want. You're thinking about what's there, what's there in reality, and what's missing from it. That's how you're looking at it, and it takes you into a vibration that disallows what you want to come into being. But if you would figure out how to emit the frequency of that thing that you want being there, it will magically appear in front of you, just like the universe is like a big magic genie in a bottle saying, "Your wish is my command." But you have to keep your consciousness on your wish, not on the reality that is in front of you that contains the absence of your wish. If you're focused that direction, then you're emitting the wrong frequency. You're emitting the frequency of lack, not the frequency of presence. Now, it's very hard to emit the frequency of abundance when what you're doing is staring at an empty bank account, and then you turn and look at bills that are there that you don't have the money to pay. It's hard to focus in the one direction and to be able to see the abundance that the universe really is trying to get to you. But you've got to be in the frequency to allow its message to get to you. So we get back to the steps of creation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, contrast causes you to ask, causes you to emit this frequency of asking for more. It is your desire. You have emitted the frequency of your desire. Your inner being takes that frequency, knows exactly what you want, and goes right to where what you want is. Goes right there to the implicate positive of the negative you just emitted. You just emitted that rocket of desire had an implicate positive. The positive was what you wanted, what you love, what would be better. That's what you just emitted. Your inner being rode that rocket to the farthest point of who you are and is sitting right there in a non-resisted state, calling you to it. Come this way, calling you past your own resistance. So what am I saying? Step 1, contrast caused you to ask. Step 2, your inner being becomes what you want. It becomes it vibrationally. It just I understand now why Abraham uses the words that she uses and why it's difficult to describe this any other way. And I've got something in my eye now which is going to make me sound distracted here for a second. But basically, step 1, you ask. Step 2, not your work. Source answers you. Ask and it is given. You just have to now find the frequency of it. And when you find the frequency of that which was given, it will appear in front of you in manifestation. That's how it works. Step 1, contrast causes you to ask. It's a very, very important part of the equation. You coming into this physical reality and living the discomfort, seeing the disorder, understanding the chaos, figuring out what the problem is so that we can fix this problem, knowing that there always is a solution. There is always a solution. There is never not a solution. Maybe you just aren't seeing the question correctly. You're not... Step 1, you ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, you have to get into alignment with your source in order for the blessings to come back to you. So how do you get into alignment with your source? Well, these are your two selves. These are your two selves. Source self, which is you. I promise it's you. Pure, 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 positive, forward-looking, eager, loving, connected, interested, Step 3, you have to get into alignment with source in order for you to plug into the frequency. So how is source going to answer you? What is it going to look like? It's going to be like a really good idea or a chance meeting. A chance meeting with someone that you really is carrying something that you're interested in, or that you can collaborate with on some magnificent project that, if you will walk this path, will unfold to you in a most satisfying and satisfying way. What you're looking for in your life is satisfaction, by the way. I am dismayed to see how quickly an hour and 23 minutes has gone by. I have so much more to say. So much more to say. I still have not gotten through my dang program. Okay, so steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I haven't even gotten to 4 and 5. Step 4 is really just getting good at step 3. You know, so you have something that it's like yesterday, certain things happened that I didn't like. People that I love were having difficulty around me, and I don't like that. I don't want the people that I love so much to have pain or struggle with their relationships or their ability to collect and attract their own abundance of co-creative players and projects and life experience. It doesn't please me when they are unhappy. And I had a couple of instances yesterday where people I deeply love were unhappy. And, but I know for a fact that there is answers to all of our questions. And from my perspective, they all boil back to an understanding of who we are. Identify with your source self. Don't think of it as somebody else. It's not somebody else trying to impose a desire that you do not share on you. It's you in your physical self getting into alignment with who you really are and what you really want out of life. I'll tell you what you want. You want freedom and fun and abundance and comfort and relationship and joyful expansion and efficiency and creation and there's all kinds of things that we want, and I just said those that's the pure position. Now it's our job in our physical brains to translate what that means in physical reality. What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to, well, it feels like something. So instead of trying to decide what physical thing will produce a manifestation that equals that feeling, go find the feeling and emanate that feeling. Be free. Know that you actually are free, because you were free to do the only thing you ever needed to do anyway, and no one can stop you from doing this. No one can get between you and your inner being. There is no space between you and your inner being. There is nowhere for anyone to insinuate anything between you and your inner being. And once you line up with your inner being, she can show you how to get everywhere you want to go, based on what's true on the ground around you right now. So isn't that interesting? That's why it's important to know who you are. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 4 is you get really good at step 3, getting into the allowing state of being. What is that allowing state of being? It's an open heart. It's an expansive, so you only have 2 modes. Your cells only have 2 modes too, and you are a macrocosm of your cells. Your cells are a microcosm of you. You are actually not just one consciousness. You are a collection of some 50 to 150 trillion, depending on how big you are and how many cells you have. It's somewhere in that range of 50 trillion to 150 trillion. And it also depends on whose measurement you go by, how many cells per square inch and how many... I haven't been able to figure out. There's been quite a lot of difference between how many cells people think that are in the human body, but it's many, many trillions. Tens of trillions for sure. Each one of them is an individual consciousness who himself is moving towards growth or protection. You're either moving forward or shrinking back. It's fear or love or fear, growth or protection. It's yes or no. It's a toggle switch. It's so easy that a snail can do it. And so, depending upon how you are lined up, whether you're in alignment with what your inner being is thinking about or off on your own, like, say if you didn't know you had an inner being and you had no idea that you actually are pure positive energy, like it or not. That's who you really are. That's what source energy is. It is pure positive energy, moving evolution forward, moving life forward, moving planets and species and civilizations and consciousness, moving it forward. That's what everything is doing. That's who you are. And say you didn't know that, and you go off and you start grubbing around in negative places, railing about the injustices of the world and how much you hate your fellow human beings because look how destructive they're being. Nobody can, behave by the rules or whatever it is. if you don't know that you have an inner being, you don't realize that your own negative emotions are being caused by your thoughts not being in alignment with your inner being. You think that your feelings are being caused by those people acting in that way. But that's not what's happening. It's the way you're lining up how you are looking at it. If you would line it up differently, then all of a sudden what they're doing makes sense. Your feelings make sense. Your future makes sense. Everything around you makes sense. Now you know how to move forward. You don't focus anymore on the problems of the world. If you notice a problem, you take it as a bouncing off point. You're like, oh, I don't like that. Ooh, what would be better? Let's see. How would that work if that was going to be fixed? Let's see. So it's ruminating in the frequency of the solution as opposed to spiraling down in the vibration of the problem. When we don't realize how our focus is creating the world around us, we don't understand how devastatingly destructive the act of focusing on the problem actually is. Now, over time, it all sorts itself out because the human beings who, when they die, they take their resistance with them. And when they're reborn, they're born without the resistance. And we're having a harder and harder time imprinting upon all of the new ones, all of the old resistance prints from the past. We think it's important to do that. We got to make sure that they understand everything that has happened in history. And yes, it's true. They do, because I understand it. And in my understanding of history has actually led me to where I am. This greater understanding of who we are. As I studied, it's like watching the movie. You're like watching it, trying to figure out what the point of the movie is. You know, what's happening? Where are we going? Where did we come from? What are we doing here? Why the hell are we killing ourselves? Why do we keep, jumping off the cliff instead of figuring this out? Well, I think it's because we had to get to a bigger understanding. Our ability to get off fossil fuels is being held back by our need to know who we are. And when we know who we are, we can go directly to source energy. We do not have to use fossil fuels anymore. We have had over a history of some very brutal suppression of what would have got us off of fossil fuels incrementally. Now we're faced with a much bigger problem. We have an enormity of momentum, of infrastructure built on a paradigm that is not sustainable. And we've got all these projects going. We've got like infrastructure projects, like airport improvement projects and expansion of this and that, making our airports better. So that, you know what? I'm sorry, people, but even that seems terribly modern. Our airports, our jet engines, and it all seems terribly modern. It is not. It is way old-fashioned. And we need to make our evolutionary leap. We need to make our little quantum leap. We need to understand who we really are and what is really possible here. We do not have to continue to live in a universe of scarcity and lack. I want to start living in a world of abundance and plenty and joyful co-creation and us exploring what human beings are really capable of. And it doesn't come about by a kind of cutthroat master race sort of competition with one another, that's the wrong paradigm. That is not in alignment with what the actual flow of biology. That's not what biology is doing. It's not he who can conquer all the rest of them, wins for all eternity, or, wins the game. He who dies with the most toys wins, or whatever you think the object of the exercise is, to conquer territory and to, defeat your enemies and to, kill or be killed, or whatever nonsense we have been taught and been teaching ourselves and each other. It's not true. He who cooperates with the most other beings is the one who wins. Those at the top of the chain are cooperating with one another. They are coordinating with one another. They are co-creating with one another. Those at the bottom are the ones who are competing with one another, by the way. Hitler was at the bottom. He was not at the top. And he turned that into a vicious competition. It was really crazy what he did. He actually barely lifted a finger. He was a lazy ass. All he did was just had this vision, and emotionally and in clarity, and he understood the vision. And then he got all the people around him to compete with each other for his favor as they knocked themselves out to, whatever. He was a genius in a lot of ways, but he was also an idiot, an absolute idiot, and a perfect example of the how far Wetiko goes. How bad it will get if it gets to the raw. Oh man, I'm way over an hour and 30 minutes. Dang it. And I am still not done. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 4, you get good at step 3. Step 5 is you're back in contrast. Something has happened that everything's going well for you. You've got that business, you got the relationship, you got money, you got cars, you got satisfaction. You're moving around the world. Things that projects that you care about are happening. Whether they're internet projects or cooking projects or church projects or whatever. Your life is humming and it's going, and things are going pretty good because you understand the value of keeping your face pointed forward in the positive direction, going in the direction of where you want to go, not in the other direction, because you only got two directions, forward or backwards, and you don't have any other choice. And then you have two speeds, fast or less fast. And this is what this illustrates. Specific is your gas pedal, and the general is your brakes. So if things are not good in this moment, for some reason you're in a state of negative emotion, back up to the general. Do not try to fix anything specifically from a negative position, because it will only make you go in the opposite direction of where you want to go faster. So that's what that one is. I'm going to let this one go just a little bit longer than an hour and a half. I might even go all the way to 2 hours. I don't like to do a 2-hour show, but I want to cover everything. The neocortex. This is your overview mind. Your neocortex is your physical mind's overview mind. It's like the mammalian brain is to your neocortex as your physical brain is to your source brain. It works like that, which is how come it's so important that when you're using your overview brain, it needs to be thinking thoughts that resonate with your true overview self, your source mind. And when it doesn't, that's when you feel negative emotion. You're thinking thoughts that have too great of a disparity in frequencies, and that difference is uncomfortable. It's like you're shooting yourself in the solar plexus with a mild cattle prod. But you're doing it. No one else is doing it to you. You are doing it in your reaction to the way you are observing the world. Quite frankly, if you would get into alignment with your inner being and then readdress the world, you will see all kinds of ways to make it better. And instead of just complaining about all the problems, you will start being a force that is making it better, because you're leaning into your desires instead of your resistance to your desires. I want this, but I can't have it because I'm not worth it. I want this, but nobody I know has this. I want this, but I don't know how to get there. Well, your inner being does. Just get into alignment with your inner being and she will show you the way. That means you got to take care of yourself. Soothe yourself and others. The ones around you that are being so ornery and negative, what they need is soothing. They need to be coaxed up the emotional guidance scale until they find their alignment with their inner being. And when you found it, when you feel good, start thinking about everything that matters to you. And when you don't feel good, disconnect from thinking about anything that matters to you, because when you are in a negative state, you're only going to mess it up. You're not going to make it any better. Now, in your messing it up a little more, you may clarify a little more about, you're right. I don't really want this. I get it now. I more clearly see what I do want because of this experience. This big fat mouthful of what I didn't want is really clearing it up for me about what I do want. And now that I'm clearer, I'm going to focus on what I do want. And I'm not going to spend my mind in doubt, because that's crossing my own energy stream. And as soon as I do that, I've created Shiva energy. I've created demonic energy. I have created this darkness in the field around me that if other people may pick it up and use it to destructive purposes. But it all has to be. We are going to have to employ some wreckers, because I promise you, the system that we have right now is not the system that we need to have. It's not in alignment. It's very much based on greed and caste hierarchy. This idea that some are worth more than others, when we are all of us integral, important parts to this picture. Your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. You cannot subtract him in order to make the picture pleasing to you. That's basically what the Nazis tried to do. They decided that, you know what, this thing that I'm focusing on that I think is so beautiful, this German culture, this clean, pure, strong, whatever it is that the part of it that they were looking at that wasn't horrific, this imaginary good thing that they thought they had to do all these horrible things to protect, when actually doing the horrible things made them horrible and killed this great thing that they thought they were trying to protect. Anyway, it's really quite interesting how that worked. They decided that if only the world had none of the people, that if I could make a list of all of the people who are causing the world problems, a list of all of the undesirables out there, all the ones who, the homeless or the retarded or the homosexual, gypsies, let's see, Jews. Who else do we need to get rid of? They had this long list of all the people that were less than good. If we can just subtract these people, then everything will be great, right? They had this idea that that's how it would turn out. And we all know how it turned out, and it wasn't anything like that. It caused a horror beyond imagining, as opposed to creating this world of whatever that they thought. So the problem being that we think that some people are worth more than others, when in actual fact, every single one of us is shining something extremely individual, beautiful, blessed, and important upon the whole scene. Every one of us is shining our light on our own piece of the grid, and as such, we are incredibly important. You can subtract no one. And so quit trying. Your neighbor is your unknown self made visible, and he is just being the way he's being so that you understand what's inside of you. And not from a perspective of, oh, look how bad people are. It's more, look how powerful people are. Look at how much is possible. Look at what the potential is with this incredible, magical quantum field that we are swimming in, with this amazing infrastructure that we possess in our physical bodies, with the physical being in tandem, in concert, in partnership with a vibrational overview self, a mind and a being that is bigger than just you. It is you and many others working on Project Humanity Organization, Project Humanity Understanding Who Am I? Project Who Am I? That's what's going on. And I believe that all things happening right now on planet Earth are in service of us coming to a better understanding of who we are and how the rolling manifestation comes to be what it comes to be, and how we can consciously direct it more in the direction of where we want it to be, instead of it just being this random life keeps happening to me shit and I don't like it and I'm complaining because it's not fair, and it's totally fair, and you have all the power you would ever need. You don't have the power that you think you want, but if you would come at it from the inside, you would realize you have all the power that you need. You don't need any other power. The power that you have is the power to line up self to self and follow the guidance of your overview to your happiest, most joyful and fulfilled life. Use this to understand your emotional guidance system. I did this for a second. I do this because I believe that we are genetically modified. It's really important. I think it explains why we do not naturally, easily come to our collective organization. Why we, for thousands of years, we've been banging around with this, trying to figure out what God is, what the Holy Spirit is, what the hell Jesus was about. What was he talking about? He was trying to start a movement of following the Spirit as opposed to following the law. The law is following rules from the outside, handed down through time, evaluated and judged from the outside. Following the Spirit is lining up with your inner being and following the impulses from that position. Building your systems for humanity from that position. And we're going to talk more about it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I'm hour and 48 minutes in. I think I'm going to stop for the day. Let's see. Anything else? Cymatic patterns. Cymatics is just the study of the relationship between vibration and form. Please know that we do live in a vibrational universe, and things are vibrationally so before they manifest physically. They are vibrationally so. And so this idea of following the guidance of your inner being, who is vibrationally telling you which direction you should go in life, it makes sense. These are cymatic patterns. The guy who studied this, he put a granular medium on a metal plate and piped frequencies through it and noticed that they formed coherent patterns. Change the frequency, change the pattern, increase the frequency, and the pattern gets more complex. Upper right, lower left, that's stuff that Hans Jenny was looking at. And you can see the snowflake is also a cymatic pattern. It's because as those snowflakes are forming up in the atmosphere, all those frequencies are out there. Frequencies, and each one of them is forming on a different frequency, and that's why they all look different. Isn't that cool? You can see in the tortoise shell and in this water creature, some sort of a bug or I don't know what these things are, but these are all cymatic patterns because the universe is vibrational. It really is. Know it. Know it to be true, not philosophically true, but physically true. All of this that I'm talking about is where spirituality, where our understanding of our spirituality and our emotional nature all meets physical reality, science, objective, if there is such, there really isn't exactly objective reality. The objective reality would be perhaps the one outside of yourself, toggled up to the next scale that includes you. Anyway, that's an esoteric conversation for another day. I'm not sure what part of this I left out today. I probably shouldn't focus that way. I just need to start again tomorrow. I pretty much covered most of it. I know what I need to cover because I am going to put this, I always do this, and somebody's going to help me with to do a jazzier, better way to do this, because I do want to give you the links to all these things that I care about. And if you would go do your homework here and get some foundational understanding of this connected universe and your place in it, your important, unsubtractable place in this incredible, malleable, wish-fulfilling universe that we live in. Check out some of these things I got. I got The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. That is just that documentary about over Unity devices and how they have been ruthlessly suppressed for over a century, as the fossil fuel barons and the robber barons and the fossil fuel industry and all of those people have wanted to keep control of the infrastructure as it is. They do not, and this centralized infrastructure is really a huge part of our problem. And it is being caused by centralized power. And more people's ability to buy into the human supply chain depends on their ability to buy into the human energy stream, petrodollars, the ability to get gasoline or whatever. The second thing, The Origin of Mass Nature, Gravity, it's a video. It's an explanation of the scientific paper that I also have a link to, The Origin of Mass Nature, Gravity paper. I haven't even talked about. I have not even scratched the surface on. I should start doing this as part 1 and part 2. One being the emotional one, and the other one being the fossil fuel aspect of it, and us plugging into source energy, and how that is going to free mankind to scatter into the bushes as much as he wants or needs to. He can grow his own food anywhere because he doesn't have to buy into the human supply chain constantly in order to get his energy supply. He may have to tag in a little bit to get a bit of technology to begin with, but then he can be just off on his own. Everybody with their own little private Idahos. Oh my God, is that going to be scary? All the cults that are going to come out of this. Well, we're just going to have to figure this out. The answer is to understand who we are. The reason that you have cults and cult leaders and all that kind of stuff with their power over the people is because when you don't understand how this works and you stumble into universal consciousness, you think you're the only one there. You think you are wholly ordained by Jesus Christ himself and the Savior of the world. You think that because you don't realize that it is a place that we all have access to. This universal consciousness place, this room. Anyway, let's keep going. The connected universe. Oh, quantum revolution. That's the first episode of a 12-part series Nassim Haramein did, where he explains how he has unified the quantum world with the cosmological world. And if you would input a general understanding, actually I'm going to be teaching the general understanding of this connection between the quantum and the cosmological universes, and how where you fit right in the middle of that. You are right. You are made of the Planck field, by the way. You are tagged into universal consciousness. Your source self absolutely is right there with universal consciousness all the time. Where are you in your physical mind? That's the question. Then we have the connected universe. That's the movie that was made in 2016. It's all about Nassim having unified the quantum and cosmological universes. It's narrated by Patrick Stewart. It's actually pretty well done. Living in the Future's Past. That's a movie. All of these are on YouTube, so it's free. None of these, you don't have to pay for any of these. Living in the Future's Past, that's made by Jeff Bridges. It explains how we are a superorganism. We are a superorganism, and we are made of oil right now. We have come to the place where we are through our use of oil, but we don't have to be anymore. Put all of these things together. I like Paul Levy. I just put his article list because I think he's cool. Awaken in the Dream, and he uses all of these concepts too with Tico, quantum physics, Buddhist philosophy, psychological, whatever. He's got it going on. He's a little dark, he's a little sad, but he is not wrong about what he's saying. And then there's the paper, and then I have a Whirling Dervishes. That's just because everything is spin. And when you understand everything is spin, you watch this video, you're like, oh, I see why they do what they do now, and how it brings them closer to God. Why, God is both personal and not personal. Both this force that organizes the universe as well as the loving awareness of all things. And we are all a part of that. And our better understanding of ourselves and how we fit into this equation, how our source mind and our physical minds play together, absolutely vital to creating a world for our children, for our future, for ourselves. Absolutely vital. And for each individual, this understanding brings individual satisfaction, individual freedom, individual joy, and all of that. So, let's see. With that, I think we're going to bring it to a close. We're coming right up on 2 hours. Maybe that's the time period we're going to have to be doing. I wanted to break it to an hour and a half, but maybe it's going to be 2 hours. In any case, I have really enjoyed the day. I have had such a good and satisfying time. I love you. I love you so much. Please keep trying to understand who you are, who we are, and where we're going. You are an important part of the equation, and your understanding of this material is important. Important for us all to get into alignment with ourselves and each other. and our Source, so Source can organize us correctly through the spirit of loving kindness and joyful, abundant co-creation. That is my prayer. That is my intention. And with that, I will leave you. Until tomorrow, I bid you peace. I wish you joy. And above all, may the Source be with you.